Why exactly is Horizon Zero Dawn getting a remaster? That's the question on everyone's mind. Surely there are older games in worse shape and are therefore much more deserving of a remaster. Yeah, it's true. Horizon Zero Dawn still looks and plays pretty great, so why the remaster? Is this just a shameless money grab by Sony in a not so subtle attempt to sell more PS5 Pros? Yeah, probably. But so what? That doesn't mean that you as a consumer can't enjoy it or can't benefit from it. So I want to talk a little bit about the Horizon Zero Dawn remaster and why I think it's a really good thing, or at least not a completely terrible thing, and some things that I'm hoping to see incorporated into the remaster. And whether or not you're a fan of the Horizon series, this is something to really be excited for. Now look, I love Horizon Zero Dawn. It is a masterpiece on so many different levels. I've played through it multiple times on both PS4 and PS5, and it's one of those games that every time you jump back into it, you're able to find something new, some hidden new detail or something in the story that pops out to you that never really stood out before. And the sheer size and scale of the open world is truly impressive. And maybe if you've only ever played Horizon Zero Dawn, it's kind of harder to wrap your mind around the idea of a remaster because it still looks and plays so great. But there's no denying that the Forbidden West, Zero Dawn's direct sequel, is a step up in just about every way. The combat system in particular is extremely fluid and flexible, and there's a surprising amount of depth to it. And the open world is absolutely massive and packed with all these cool little details that you wouldn't really even know unless you kind of stopped to look and pay attention to them. And not to mention the graphics are just insanely good, especially when you're looking at the Burning Shores, the DLC to the Forbidden West, which was a PS5 exclusive and got to take full advantage of the PS5 hardware. Now the story itself might not be quite as good or engaging as Zero Dawn, but I think that it compensates and makes up for it in a lot of other ways. And once you've been spoiled by the Forbidden West, it's a little bit tough to step back and go back into Horizon Zero Dawn. I mean, visually, there is a significant difference between the two, and that's not to say that Zero Dawn looks bad by any stretch, it's just it looks a little bit dated compared to the Forbidden West and some of these other next-gen titles. And I think that was one of the biggest gripes when it came to the graphics in Zero Dawn, is that the facial animations just looked a little off and felt kind of stiff. The lips didn't really seem to match the words that were being said, and the eyes just didn't seem to be looking in the right direction. But according to the PlayStation blog, we're getting 10 plus hours of re-recorded conversations, mocap, and countless graphical improvements to help bring the game into the same visual fidelity as Forbidden West. I mean, this has me really excited, and this alone is probably worth the $10 that it's going to cost to upgrade from the PS4 version. They actually dragged the actors back into the studio and made them put the mocap suits back on so they could re-record a ton of dialogue. I mean, that is not a light lift. So kudos to the Guerrilla team and anyone else that was involved for going that in depth and working so hard to give us an experience that might feel still pretty new even if we've played through a game a couple times. Now the blog also mentions a lot of improvements that seem to focus on the audio. It says that the audio experience will be significantly enhanced and they have completely revamped the sound mix. Now I always kind of assumed that it was just me or something having to do with my setup, but that was probably my biggest complaint with Zero Dawn when it came to like the overall bugginess of the game. The audio mix just sounded a little bit off. So this is probably something that's not going to immediately jump off the page to a lot of players, but I think it's going to make a really big difference when it comes to the overall immersive experience for the game. And for me, it's probably one of the things that I think is going to make one of the most noticeable differences. Now, aside from the graphics and audio, it seems like we'll also be getting some updated accessibility features and gameplay updates that were first introduced in the Forbidden West. Now, the blog doesn't expand on this too much, except to say that we'll be getting remappable controls, haptic cues, and various assist toggles. But I'm genuinely hoping that we'll see some additional gameplay improvements that were also first introduced in Horizon Forbidden West. I think it's probably too much at this stage to ask for a shield wing, although I'd bet that that's at the top of just about every player's list. I can't tell you how many times I've fallen to my death in Zero Dawn expecting my shield wing to be there to bail me out. But that seems like it'd probably be a little bit too much of a development lift for a remaster, and then you'd also have to figure out a way to incorporate into the story, and then how would that play into the Forbidden West when you're also reintroducing the shield wing in the story? That one seems like it'd be a bit of a stretch, and if they're going for some level of parity between the two games, I doubt it's something that we'll see. But fingers crossed, hopefully we at least get a stash. Probably my biggest complaint going back into Zero Dawn in terms of the overall gameplay is just the inventory management can be such a pain. You're constantly having to leave loot behind because there's not enough room in your inventory. You definitely have to do a lot more farming in Zero Dawn in terms of just raw materials. So hopefully they find a way to bring the stash into Horizon Zero Dawn, which would make the overall inventory management just significantly easier, or maybe they give us upgraded pouches so that we can upgrade them to another level and we can store more materials. Either way, I'm hoping we see something there. And some other nice to have features that I think would be really good to incorporate into Zero Dawn are things like quick pickup or auto pickup of items. This is such a simple thing that makes such a big difference, and again, going back into Zero Dawn, it just makes it a little bit annoying when you have to stop and reach down and wait for the pickup animation every time you need to pick up something. And transmog is another thing that was introduced in the Forbidden West that I hope we'll see in the remaster. This again is one of those really simple things that's just nice to have the ability to swap out your appearance of an outfit that still keeps the perks and benefits of the outfit you want to use. And another thing that I'd love to see is the ability to switch between night and day. In the Forbidden West, you can rest at shelters and change between day and night. Personally, I just don't like playing games at nighttime. I get that it makes sense in terms of adding realism to the open world, and it would be weird if it was always daytime. And for whatever reason, I feel like the clock in Zero Dawn is just a little off. I feel like I'm always kind of playing the game at night, or you start a mission in the daytime and it always ends when you're at night. So yeah, the ability to change the time of day would be really nice, or if they could figure out a way to just make the day cycle longer and the night cycle shorter, I think that would be good as well. But what's on your wish list of gameplay mechanics that you would like to see in the remaster? If you could pick one thing, or maybe even a couple of things, and they could work it into the game, what would be at the top of your list? Definitely be sure to let me know in the comments. Now, another reason why I think this remaster is a good thing is that, you know, like it or not, Horizon 3 is probably a really long way off. Horizon Zero Dawn and Horizon Forbidden West released 5 years apart. So you figure if the Forbidden West came out in 2022, so 2026, 2027, maybe even 2028, I'd say is probably a safe bet for when we're gonna see Horizon 3. And honestly, yeah, that seems like an eternity away. But at the same time, good? You know, I think I speak for a lot of gamers when I say, you know, take as much time as you need and just make a really good game. Personally, I'd rather see one amazing Horizon game every 5 years than something like Assassin's Creed where we get, you know, a mediocre one every year or two. But with such a long wait in between releases, at least this remaster gives us something. It might not be something completely new, but at least it gives us something fresh and fun to talk about. And no, working on this remaster doesn't push the release date to Horizon 3 back any further than it normally would be. It looks like Guerrilla has been working with Nixxes, which is another developer that Sony acquired specifically to work on game ports and remasters. They were the ones that brought Horizon Forbidden West to PC, as well as Ghost of Tsushima, which released on PC just a few months ago. So we're not getting this remaster at the expense of Horizon 3. So if you have that Horizon itch, which I know I do, this at least gives us something to kind of bide our time and hold us over while we sit patiently and wait for Horizon 3. And yeah, if you have like bumps or hives or anything, that's probably not the Horizon itch. You should definitely get that checked out. Okay, and one final reason why I think this remaster is a good thing is that it's going to give new players an excuse to pick up Horizon and get involved in the Horizon community. Now, I've been doing my channel for almost 2 years at this point, and I've covered a handful of games other than Horizon, and I can safely say that the Horizon gaming community is probably one of the most positive gaming communities out there. Artix and the other Horizon creators, as well as the Guerrilla team, have worked really hard to just make the Horizon gaming community one of the few bright spots in terms of games. So anything that will bring attention to the game and introduce new players to Horizon and get them involved in the Horizon community, I think is just a really good thing. And it makes sense that if players are going to start with Horizon Zero Dawn and then make their way through the Forbidden West, they're going to want an experience that feels and looks consistent. And ultimately, I imagine that'll also play into Horizon 3, where you'll have this 3-game trilogy that you can play that just feels like one long game or a natural continuation of the series. So all in all, while this remaster probably isn't necessary, I think it's a really good thing. And I, for one, am here for it. I'm really looking forward to it. Okay, but what are your thoughts on the Horizon Zero Dawn remaster? I genuinely want to know, what are you looking forward to the most? What are some things that you want to see incorporated into Zero Dawn? Definitely be sure to let me know in the comments below. Thanks everyone for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
The end. Or how it begins, anyway.